wineaccess.com/ham, where you get 20% off of your first order.
We got sent recently some bottles of Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir. I love a good Pinot. This Domaine Nico, I think I'm saying that right, is fantastic.
Marc Badain, the president of the Raiders, a 30-year Raider employee, resigned seemingly suddenly and was replaced by another Raider employee, at least as the interim president, on Monday. Now, a lot of people when that happened started tweeting at us, maybe you guys will be allowed back in the building, or maybe Middlecoff, really, John, I did nothing.
I don't know how you avoided the shrapnel, but it feels like you did.
Yeah. Well, I didn't avoid the shrapnel. You've been in
this building.
I didn't avoid the shrapnel. Yeah. I avoided the wrath because, again, innocent bystander, I like to think.
Yeah.
But it is pretty alarming. I mean, it's people who've covered the Raiders for a long time and followed them very closely. I mean, July 20th for a president who just moved a team to Vegas, and I would say from the Raiders' perspective, as many factors as there were, would you agree with this? From an NFL perspective and a league perspective, or that is the league, and a Vegas perspective, in terms of who worked for the Raiders that had the most to do with this, you'd probably say Marc Badain, in terms of getting a new stadium done and that sort of thing.
By a mile. I mean, you could argue Marc Badain was as, if not more integral than the owner. And, I think it's fair to say that he's played a role in this move that probably in teams of moving in all sports, no president has had as much juice given the owner that he works for, right? Like in LA, Kevin Demoff, like Kroenke's a real estate guy. Like Kroenke's in fucking charge. The backstory for people that are listening, a big reason that we owe Marc Badain. Without him, this podcast never would have existed. We wouldn't have a huge sponsor to announce in a couple weeks. He changed my life professionally. And the shrapnel that hit you came with me, and it's been awesome. And I honestly, who knows, we might still be a part of terrestrial radio, hating life. So I owe that to him. And my first takeaway, one, I just texted a couple people because
I've had a few people ask, because this was several years ago now, right? It's 2016 we're talking about. We were doing radio.
It's a long time
John
ago.
was doing the Raiders post game, said some things the Raiders didn't like. It snowballed. They wanted John off. Next thing you know, contracts expire. And Haberman and Middlecoff are gone.
Yeah, and it's a touchy situation when you are a partner with a team and you're part of their broadcast and things aren't going that well for the team. And they're a very sensitive team, and it's a lifetime employee. He bleeds it. Like I get it more now than I did at the time, especially when we were first hired on the radio show. We had a boss who promoted just say what you think.
Yeah.
Right? That was his thing.
That's
and then
true.
We changed management. And it went the opposite way, like, kiss their goddamn ass. It's like, well, they're trying to move. We live here in the Bay Area. I don't care. Say they should move to Vegas. And it got complicated, and it clearly didn't go well. But ultimately, we've gone our separate ways, and it's worked out well for both people. Two responses. One, when I saw it, like most people, like, that's weird. Text people that I thought might know. Everyone that I text, when I say everyone, it was 3 people that I think would have some knowledge, inside knowledge, all said they were shocked. So I think this was very shocking to everyone. And on Twitter, a lot of people were saying, like, Gruden had something to do with this. To my knowledge, and I feel pretty good about my sources here, this has nothing to do with John Gruden. Absolutely not. John Gruden liked Marc Badain. He was pro football. This has nothing to do with John Gruden.
I can't even come up with a theory as to why Gruden would be involved in this.
Well, some people had insinuated that Bruce Allen, he would get Marc Badain out to get Bruce Allen. I had a league executive told me, under no circumstances would the NFL, not that even though I'm not saying Mark Davis would want to or John Gruden would want to, would they allow Bruce Allen to be employed right now in the NFL? What just happened in Washington? He's toxic right now. The NFL would fucking come storming in and ex-nay that one. So that was a conspiracy theory I saw flying around, which isn't crazy, right? They had worked together, but that's not happening.
Since it's not happening, I won't even take the time to shoot that one down, other than to say, again, this is a 30-year employee of the Raiders that we're talking about.
This is, and you and I have, I would say unique knowledge, just having covered the Raiders for a team that we used to go to training camp, get as much as the red carpet as you can, right? They're just a blue-collar operator. It's not like some extravagant thing. So Mark Davis used to sit down with us because Lorenzo Neal we was pretty close with the organization, right? I see Marc Badain all the time. Like, I had his number. We were cool. And just when the move happened, tensions were high, which I understand. I give Marc Badain a lot of credit for leading that charge because I don't think that it all would have come together without him. And one of my responses after just thoughts after just it all kind of played out yesterday was felt bad for him a little bit. You do all this work, this is your life's work since graduating college. Work your way up, become the team president, lead a move away from Oakland, which is, let's just face it, that site where those teams were, the Warriors, Raiders, and A's. The Warriors are now gone. The A's, it's pretty clear, are fucking going to be gone. And the Raiders, that's not an area where you could survive. Oh, I just wanted them to stay, one, selfishly. We obviously had them. And two, you and I know people that are big Raider fans that were season ticket holders. Like, I didn't want them to leave.
I liked having them around.
Yeah. But I don't argue that it's been very lucrative for them there. And Marc Badain played a unique role, and he doesn't get to see it through. Like, that sucks.
Yeah, I think people think that we'd be
he was fired yesterday.
Enjoying this. And we're not.
You agree he was fired?
I don't see the motivation. Now, again, he didn't say much. Maybe one day he'll say something more. I don't really see the motivation.
Well, he texted a bunch of people, said
I saw what he said, but there's no next job lined up. Now, did he want to just be in the Bay Area? Maybe, right? I don't know. But
didn't seem
I
like
don't see the motivation on July 19th when you're about to be the president of the team as they play their first real season, right, where fans are allowed in. I don't understand what the motivation would be to walk away. So, yes, I think it's questionable circumstances.
I also think when you go back to the origin of why he's there, I don't think it can be overstated and hammered home enough how much he is Mark Davis's guy. Like, that is Mark, like the juice he has and the power he has because of the way the organization and just the owner is not like many places, man. He had a very, very powerful job, and the owner fucking depended on him. So to me, it was just, as everyone, again, the three people that would know, shocked. People were stunned, guy.
Yeah.
Stunned.
I think the point you made, though, I want to go back to, he was not a hired gun, right? He was a Raider fan as a child. His grandfather was Al Davis's high school basketball coach or something. And he started at the bottom as an intern, became the president of the team. And as you said, a powerful president. President. So, all the league meetings, stadium negotiations, he was critical. He was there with Mark when it came to.
Remember one of the stories, I think, when the LA thing fell through and he snapped on a bunch of people?
Yeah.
And again, in fairness to him, he was very, very passionate about the Raiders. Back to what you're saying. This was not, it truly meant a lot to him. I'll give him that. They didn't mean anything to me. So I understood looking back, where he looks at me and you or ripping on him. And I don't even think it was much our radio show. It was more me being critical post-game, which they viewed as part of their broadcast. It's this is us. You're fucking ripping.
You're not allowed to be negative on our show, right? That's disrespectful.
I get it looking back. And it wasn't a healthy spot for me to be in. It wasn't what I'm good. It just was a bad situation.
There are a ton of
circumstances. I do get it.
It's management change. You go from a manager who's good at protecting the employees, which is a good manager protects people from the things they don't need to know, the noise, and then in turn you get somebody who, the tail wags the dog. But you can't deny that it's weird. It's weird. And I don't, in the end, is it the worst thing in the world if an organization eventually turns over and has some people from the Raiders historically have not had people from the outside in, right?
Well, they rehire coaches.
Yeah.
Right?
So, but again, we'll see. He got the job initially. He was the interim president when he took over for
Amy
Trask, and now the guy that replaced him is the interim president. Maybe he'll become the president. Maybe he won't. Wouldn't. What do I think is likely? I think that cycle continues, but it wouldn't shock me.
I'll be stunned, guys.
Yeah, I will be too. But I will say this: you're in a different world now. You're in Vegas. A lot of people had to pull strings for you. The NFL and the state pulled a lot of strings for the Raiders. They're the ones that So
Yeah,
now do you owe
I could see a
people
casino.
things
Like
that,
if you told me a former MGM executive, something like that, that's possible.
yeah. There are a lot of people who I would think would view that job as one they would want to go get, even though, because at the end of the day, it's an NFL president job. How many NFL presidents just walk away because they want to walk away?
Wouldn't the NFL, I would say Roger and his crew want to influence this? I mean, it's a big deal to have in this market now, right?
Absolutely. Maybe they've got somebody they'd like to put there from the league office.
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. So yeah, stunned would be strong. I'd say that's an option.
But that is their history. Like to your point, that is their history.
I don't think it could be overlooked, the casino impact on Mark, right? Hey, we got a guy we'd like to do that. Why would he not listen? I got a big time business guy that knows a bunch of people. That to me actually feels more likely than the NFL getting involved, Mark hiring someone Vegas ties. It would make sense, right?
Someone with
like the
access
guy
to
that just took over,
local sponsors and all kinds of things.
well, like the
Not that they need
Pac-12,
that help.
the commissioner who just took
George
over.
Kliavkov.
Someone like that in that world.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what it means for them, like wins and losses, but
Well, it doesn't mean anything.
it'll just be interesting to see organizationally the next 5-10 years what happens. Right? Is Mark Davis the owner of the Raiders for the rest of his life? Whatever.
Yeah.
Or I mean, clearly he wants to be, right?
I would think, unless he gets in trouble, they can't force him out, him not going anywhere. But if they did become available, just the power of Vegas, how cheap it is, the no state income tax, it's a very, very business-friendly place, right? So these business guys, and let's face it, I would imagine a lot of people in the league that aren't quote-unquote California people, like I know Jerry likes Stan. Jerry has to think it's fucking insane that he spent $6 billion. Like how just the costs of everything. Do you know what you can do in Vegas? What would they go for, guy? Like you see some of these fake numbers. If the Panthers are going for $2 billion, the Clippers are going for $2 billion, would they fetch 4.5?
Yeah, I think 4 is the floor.
The Vegas Raiders
With a brand new stadium.
Yeah, 4 is the floor. And 4 is a lot of money. I mean, we're asking like it's just like chump change.
We always make it, but there's only so many people that can afford it, right? And then you got to cut that list into people that would want it.
He would get 4 with ease.
I'm just looking here. The Forbes annual valuation in May was 3.1. So you can go ahead and add one bill just for the bidding process.
Yeah.
Right.
Put it on the market for 3.2. Let him eat.
Yeah. You put it on for 2.9. Attract more. You only do like a 15-minute open house though.
No contingencies though. You do not get to look inside.
There's absolutely no contingencies. And then you also get, the NFL has to approve.
I would say though, whenever, and I'm not trying to get ahead. Again, I'm not rooting for Mark to fail or anything.
That's it will be. You and I do root for Mark Davis.
He's always been cool to me. I understand. Same. I haven't seen him in a long time, but
not since Napa several years ago. But he would. You could walk up to him and have a conversation, and we did.
I do think it's fair to say. I mean, he's 66 years old. He doesn't have any kids. I think that we know about. That coming down the home stretch, like it will be a historic day one day when the Davis family no longer owns the Raiders, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Al Davis is on a short list of the Steinbrenners, the buses of just most famous owners in the history of sports worldwide. Absolutely. Has to be, right?
I mean, there aren't that many organizations that are still family owned, never been up for sale.
Rooney's, the Hunts. It's a smaller list. And I think you're starting to see some of these people dying, right? Pat Bowlen, the Seattle Seahawks, Paul Allen. Like, I do think we're going to see, isn't turnover somewhat inevitable with the prices? Some
Especially
of these kids aren't going to like it as much.
The money is so massive. All the cousins can get paid.
Wait, we can get $4 billion? I saw someone say, like, if the Broncos ever hit the open market, fucking the line would be long. What do you think would go more if they both hit the open market? The Denver Broncos or the Vegas Raiders?
It's hard. I mean, my gut instinct is Raiders, but Denver's a pretty valuable marketplace right now too. I mean, and will be historically.
The Broncos should go more than the Raiders. I do think the Vegas draw and the new stadium.
I also think you could convince an owner the brand is. I think the Raider brand is bigger nationally. I know sometimes we think that, we go back and forth on it, but I do think that's it's a pretty unique brand in a league where it's just hard. How do you stand out?
I do think we're going to see more and more teams just given, I can get $4 billion from my team. My dad, I don't even like football that much. Is going to happen more. It's going to happen more and more.
Yeah.